Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Big East Rewind. I'm Chuck Everson, your 7-foot host from Villanova University, and my partner, as always, is the great Dr. Sonny Sparrow. How are you, Doc?
I'm good, Chuck. I'm good, Chuck. I'm glad we got Marcus on today. This is something we've been trying to do.
Yeah. It's interesting because we're starting to get into some different eras now of the game. Now we're getting away from the Lou Carnesecca era and getting into the Mike Jarvis era. We went through Brian Mahoney and his group, and now we're moving on to the next coach, which was Mike Jarvis, right? So it should be fun. He was a great player, so to boot. So I can't wait to hear his story. So without any further ado, Sonny, let me introduce our guest to you and to the audience. We've got he was an outstanding standout at St. John's University, as we said, a 1,400 point scorer, Sonny, in 2 seasons. That was our 4 seasons each didn't equal 1,400 points, the two of us.
I
So
could still be playing.
that
I might not have
that's
1,400.
that's saying something right there, my friend. He was in 2003. He was an NIT champion and MVP of the NIT tournament. Two-time All First Team Big East player. 21.2 points a game. Had a 15-year outstanding European career. Played a couple years, had some time in the NBA with the Clippers and with Denver, and was honored, Sonny, in 2024 as a official Big East legend. Marcus Hatten from St. John's. How are you, Marcus?
I'm amazing. I'm amazing. Sonny and Chuck, I want to thank y'all for having me. I know we've been trying to get this thing done for quite some time, but now we're here, and now we're gonna make it one for the ages.
There you go.
So,
I like the way you think, Marcus.
Mhm.
You got me. Go ahead, son.
no, I was going to ask you all those accolades, right? All those things. How special was it to be named the legendary St. John's player by the Big East collectively?
Man, that was probably one of the best feelings that I had, and to experience it and be named as one of the legends out of such a historic, legendary conference, the Big East Conference. Like,
Right.
oh, it's
Yeah.
like,
That's huge.
yeah, it's just you can go. The list will never stop. So it's just to be honored in the names and the likely of like those players, it just was like a great experience for me.
But they didn't forget you. I mean, 2 years, right?
2 years.
And you played considering a short time, and you had that much of an impact. It says a lot about your game, and it says a lot about your impact on the school.
Yeah. I was just grateful and had the opportunity that Coach Mike Jarvis gave me. A kid from Baltimore, he had a relationship with Boosie Thornton, who's also from Baltimore. So I think the pipeline was already there, and for him to come in and just really give me the keys to the city, it was just like, oh man, it was match made in heaven for me.
Now, wasn't he a big proponent of the defense and the pressure and all that stuff? Like, was that instilled in you, or was that something he really tried to teach you?
Well, I mean, for me, that's how we grew up that way. Like for me, so like when you see it, and like I think you expect every coach to kind of coach you in that manner. Like we never like was like guys who would never in the offensive guys' face to be like pressure, pressure, pressure. So when Mike Jarvis like implemented some of those same scenarios, it was perfect. Like it just worked out because we just was like hardworking blue collar team.
So let's go back to where it started, Marcus, because I know you're from Baltimore, BC County, right? So talk to us about what is the difference between because this gets twisted all the time for us, right? We've had numerous. First of all, Baltimore in that DC area is like a hotbed for fantastic basketball players. I
And we've
mean,
made and we've made a statement. We've had a lot of players,
a
Mhm.
lot. Uh,
lot of players from
But
there.
I still don't understand the difference between BC County, PG County, and the DMV.
So they got the whole DMV thing, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia, which is
Okay,
categorized as that's one entity.
right,
Baltimore City is considered its own third world entity.
right.
Like we feel like we're way different than the DMV, so we feel like we're not connected to those.
Okay, but there's big rivals there. I mean, because
Huge. Huge.
Huge.
So
Talk
what
about
about
that for a
Prince
second. I
George?
mean,
Where does that fit in?
That's kind of considered the DC area as well.
yeah.
Now, is there a big rivalry between you two?
Um, More so DC and Baltimore.
Okay.
Now, when you were growing up, do you guys play in the same parks as those guys, or are you kind of just in Baltimore area, or did you get down and play in the parks down in PG County as well?
Yes. So when I was growing up, we had the thing called the Dome down here, and we would always have like a DC versus Baltimore game. And the likes of Steve Francis, Lonnie Harrell, and names like that, Kurt Troublesmith, like those guys were coming down to Baltimore, and then we had a guy the likes of like Michael Lloyd, Sam Cassell, Mark Karcher. I want to say Carmelo. Carmelo might have played once, but like myself, we it was just like a big thing when I was
Yeah.
growing up. And then we would go to DC and play them. But yeah, I went to play that the infamous Berry Farms. I used to go to DC and play up there.
Yeah.
And it was like seeing like no other, man. It was just filled with like you can tell history and pride, and they just love their basketball. I was very passionate. They're very passionate about their basketball.
Yeah. And again, like you said, all these players. Now, your dad worked with a lot of kids from the Baltimore area, right?
Yep.
Including, I believe he worked with Reggie Lewis at some point. Is that right?
Eddie Lewis, Sam Cassell, Muggsy Bowles, you
All
name
those,
them
yeah.
all.
And then, our buddy Reggie Williams played with Muggsy
Yep.
in high school on that famous Dunbar team.
Yeah,
That's
Herb
it.
Reed and
So
Mike
what did
Brown.
you
Mike,
what
that's
did your dad do? And did he instill the love of the game to you? Is that how you got your start?
So yes, he just introduced me to like all sports, like football, basketball, baseball, and even like then it was kind of like soccer. And he tried. He could. He was a basketball player himself. He had an opportunity to go play for the Baltimore Bullets at the time, and
Okay.
his love for the game, and then hearing his name around town when it came to basketball, like he's up there with like among the greats that come from out of this town. And he would just show me, he would just tell me little things and show me little things. And then once I was trying to show him what I already knew, he was like, "Oh, I got somebody for you." And then he passed me on to my coach Bucky Lee. But my dad was the one that kind of introduced me to basketball.
now, when you were playing and you were trying to get on that main court when you were playing, right?
Hmm.
Everybody talks about it. I got to get on the older guy's court. Who was your guy that you wanted to be like or play like or beat? Who was the guy that you tried to emulate?
Well, Michael Jordan, like it was never a guy that was in my neighborhood that I wanted to pattern my game or I looked up to. I just thought like, the knowledge that my dad provided me with, and then once I started to fall in love with the game, and then I kind of just like started watching Michael Jordan at an early age, and I was like, wow, like his footwork was crazy, and I would go practice these things, and then like when people see me play, they're like, oh, this little guy, he gonna post me up, and it just like get closer to spots because I would always watch Michael Jordan do it, so I kind of would kind of pattern that a little bit after my game because I was just watching him as a young kid in awe and amazement.
What about some of the comparisons of you and a certain answer, the answer, AI?
It's a very compelling like resemblance when you look at our game because it's like the body size was the
Yep.
same, long arms, kind of dribbled and approached the game the same way. So the resemblance was of our game was already there.
Yeah, and same style too. I mean, slashing, getting to the rim,
Hmm.
Fearless.
finishing at
I
the
call it
rim, that
fearless.
type of thing. Yeah, fearless. I guess that's a good word, Sonny. Fearless. Yeah. Um, so take us on your journey, okay, for Tallahassee Community College, all right, to
Hmm.
St. John's. How did that work out? Tell us about that, how you got from Tallahassee to the
How about how
city.
you got to Tallahassee in the first place?
Yeah, right.
So coming out of high school, like I wasn't highly recruited. So I was like, they at this time they was talking about prep school, and I was like, I don't want to do like what's considered another year of high school. I want to be challenged more. So I reached out to a friend named Renard Smith, who had already had dealings with Boosie Thornton. So Boosie had already took the Tallahassee route. So it's kind of like I was following the blueprint. I was kind of already following what was already there.
Yeah.
And then when I had went to visit Hutchinson. I think it was like two other junior colleges I wanted to go visit. When I went to Tallahassee, I was like, oh no, this is it. This is it. So when I got down there, I was like, oh shit, it's 110 degrees. They want us to run out here in this weather. This is crazy. And
Yeah.
then Michael Gillespie was one of the best coaches I ever played for. He just pushed me. He motivated me. He kind of knew how to help me improve as a basketball player because I was really raw coming out of high school, but I had my fundamentals down. But he kind of polished me and turned me into the player that I turned into being the St. John's. And then from time to time, he would call me or I would call him and he would say, man, Jarvis need to help you right now. It used to be so many funny phone calls because he just wanted, he had that passion for me and that will that he wanted me to succeed.
So you spent 2 years at Tallahassee, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So now, how did the recruiting process go from there to make the jump from the community college to the D1 level in the Big East?
At that time, it was like I said, it was really new to me because we had already had like all American junior college players that a lot of college coaches like Larry Eustace, Pat Kennedy, like of those likes they were already coming to Tallahassee to see like play like Antoine Jones was one of the guys, Nick Young, he was one of the guys. So we had these players that they were already watching.
Right.
So Mike Jarvis, like I said, had already came down because he had Boosie, I think 2 years prior to before I got there. And then like, we was like ranked number one in the country.
Yeah.
And I just joined everybody else to us. So then, like like I said, Larry Stacey of Iowa State, Pat Kennedy of DePaul, Mike Davis at Indiana at the time, Mike Jarvis at St. John's, and the list just goes on and on of the coaches that were coming down to just watch us,
Hmm.
watch it. And then it was just like a no brainer for me because Tallahassee was a stretch because I got really homesick, and I was like I wanted to be closer to home. So St. John's was the next best thing for me.
Yeah. Worked out pretty good, right?
Yeah, yeah, very well.
That
Yeah.
Coach Gillespie, is that the coach that was at Kentucky for a period?
No, no, no. That's a different Gillespie. Mike Gillespie is I think he coached at FAMU. After that, I think that's the highest he had been the college coach.
Hmm. Now, did you get recruited by any teams like Maryland or Georgetown, any other schools down in your area?
No, nope, I didn't. And then
That's odd. I mean, listen, considering what happened at St. John's and how you played, I mean, that's a strange thing to me because they have
It's a
so many
swing and a
good.
miss.
I'm sure they've seen you play
Mhm.
prior to going down to Tallahassee. I mean, you were down there, that seems really strange that they would, not even get involved at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, and then you got a lot of times it's about who they already have because I think that at the
Fit,
time they
right?
had
Yeah.
rest in peace Kevin Braswell at the time, and I think whoever else they were recruiting, and like you said, it is a very competitive nature when we talk about like sports, right? Because everybody wants the best guards or try to get the best guards, but only you're only going to get one or two guards to come into your program, at a time. So I took it as I used it as motivation because I had met Gary Williams down in New Orleans for NCAA thing. He said, "Man, we didn't even know we had you in our backyard." So things like that when it's after the fact,
To me, that's wild, Marcus.
yeah,
I mean,
That's
how do they
crazy. I
not
know.
know that? I mean, listen, you got to have if you're a coach, I don't care what level, you got to have your ear to the ground and you know where the players are at and you know who can play and who needs a little work, who's already there,
Yeah.
where.
And
I
your
yeah,
mean,
team and
how do you
your
not know
staff.
that you're there? That blows my mind. And he's a Hall of Fame coach.
yes, yes. So, I mean, sometimes they miss. Sometimes they miss. But more they make more than they miss. So that's how I took it.
Yeah, but lucky
Uh,
for you, because look at the
yeah,
motivation you had.
yeah, because like, and I say even at that time they had Steve Francis, and then they had Warren Dixon, and then they had Steve Blake. So like sometimes I look at it like like you said, you end up at the right place where you was destined to be. So St. John's was just like something, and I said this in my Hall of Fame speech. Like it was kind of ironic. that when I was a kid, I used to watch Coming to America. And Coming to America, they had the game at Madison Square Garden. It was St.
Yeah.
John's playing, and then look, fast forward a couple years now, and I was playing at St. John's.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, and let me ask, when you got on campus, at Alumni Hall, they didn't have dorms back then, right? Still, that didn't come till much later, correct? You guys stayed in
Uh,
apartments, or
yeah, we stayed in apartments, but I think my last year was the first year they had dorms. No, they had dorms.
did they? Okay.
Yeah.
So you're really living the city life, having your own place. Did you room with a teammate?
Yes, it was me and Don and Emmanuel.
Okay. So you guys are hanging out, doing your thing. You walk into Alumni Hall, Carnesecca Arena. I don't think they named it that yet, but Alumni
Mhm.
Hall was probably right.
Yep.
And what's your first impression when you walk into the campus of St. John's? You're about ready to start your first practice.
And I was excited. I just was like, oh, like it's finally here. Like, I can't wait to, start because I just always wanted to prove myself. So then when I started to look up and I started to see the banners and the championships and, the history, and I was like, oh, wow. And I still didn't quite take it in when I was first got there. It's just like, oh, I'm ready to play ball. I'm trying to get my name out there. But, when I started to look and learn, it was like, oh wow, man, this is one of the greatest programs in college history.
Yeah. I mean, and especially, not that far behind you. I mean, ahead of you. Their 85 team, and they've had a lot of
Hmm.
winning, not just 85, it goes all the way back,
Hmm.
into the 60s and the 50s. They were successful all the way through, from Coach Carnesecca right on through.
Yep.
And now with Coach Patino. So,
Can I ask a question on that, Bean?
yeah.
Starting there, and they had a pretty good history of solid point guards, mostly from the city, right?
Hmm.
Now, did any of those guys like reach out to you, or did they make any connections with Mark Jackson or Boo Harvey or anybody, any of those guys?
Yeah, I used to talk to Boo. I spoke with Omar. Like I used to speak with a lot of the guys,
Mark
man.
Cook,
Like
yeah.
those guys are there. They are available. Like especially to kind of have a conversation and to build the brotherhood. That St. John's is starting to accumulate. Those guys are there at your access.
Yeah, that's the good part about, that
Nice
type of,
having that resource, man.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's great that you're able to do that. So,
Hmm.
at what point did Mike Jarvis hand you the keys to the car, Marcus?
um, it was. I think honestly, it was kind of like from practice one because I was just finishing first and everything. And then I think when we came out and played the Globetrotters in the scrimmage, no, excuse me, let me take that back. I apologize because he knew because we played in a USA team and we went to Greece and we went overseas and he saw and he's like, oh, I got a basketball player. And then once I got into practice and I just wanted to finish first and everything, then I think that was really solidified and because I always wanted to compete.
So you're coming in there, you're not exactly a freshman, but it's your first year
Hmm.
at that level, okay?
Hmm.
So did he see that leadership quality as soon as you came in the door, or was it something that came upon you, over time during practice? What do you
Uh,
think that was when how Mike saw you in that regard?
I just think the better I started to play, the more the guys started to follow my lead. Because I was never like a talker, like lead by like I was always like to lead by example. And I think once they start seeing that the consistency of which I was scoring and we were winning games, then I think that's when Jarvis really realized he was like, oh, we he's the leader.
Yeah, and everybody just fell into line at that point.
Hmm. Yes, because
So
you got to think like Anthony Glover, he has championship DNA because he won the Big East
yeah,
in 2000. So he already has the championship DNA. But the difference was all of the guys that he came in with, they were gone. And
right.
now all of us are new. Like he didn't really know me. Like he knew of me. He didn't really know too much about me. So he had to figure me out. You know what I'm saying? I had to figure him out. So it was just like, like at that time, like, like all of the guys were trying to mend. And then like, the departure of Omar, like, I think everybody was banking that Omar would come back at least for one more year. And then we have that backcourt that we always talk about now. Like, man, that would probably been one of the best backcourts in college basketball.
Yeah, at that time, yeah.
Hmm
100%. Yeah. So take us through the season that year. You went through you guys had a pretty good team your first year. You came out and did well, right?
hmm
So talk about some of the big rivals that you had and some of the guys that gave you a tough time. That
Um,
I mean that you had to guard.
my first year was kind of like I was on the hunt. So like all of the big name players, Chris Thomas, who was at Notre Dame at that time, Troy Bell, who was at Boston College.
Yeah.
You had John Salmon at Miami. You had John Linehan at Providence. You had just man, a ton of guards, man. Like you had Syracuse. Who you had at Syracuse? There, you McNamara. Um,
Yep.
so it was just like a ton of
Billy
guards. Like
Edelin.
yes, excuse me, I can't forget those guys from Pitt. Brandon Knight, Julius Page. Those guys
Hmm
were just
Yeah.
aggressive. They were really, they knew how to win. And the league was just from top to bottom. And like you said, you got Talik Brown at UConn. So all of these guys, you got Andre Barrett at Seton Hall. Like this list will
Yeah, it
never
was on and
stop.
on.
The more you think. So man, I kind of was just like at it for everybody. Like whoever, I couldn't wait to match up whoever because it's just like, for one, I'm doing what I love to do, and then like this is what you grew up wanting to do. For the rest of your life. So those challenges was I was just ready for.
So what about memories of the Big East tournament at the Garden? Now that's kind of when we've talked about this, Sonny and I, that's kind of a home game for you guys. You play so many games there, but that Big East time, that's when it was the most fun for, at least when we were playing. How did you feel about that? And what were some of your best Big East tournament memories?
Man, when you finally get to kind of living like an NBA player, when it's Big East time. Like, you stand in a nice hotel, you stand right there, and then you get in transportation to play in the greatest arena in the world. And then you start to understand what's at stake. And then you start to see, like it's kind of like, all right, we were cool then, now it's time to battle. So, one of my fondest memories when we beat UConn. We beat we was upset at, we won like two games and we was one game away from kind of making it to the semifinals. So, we just had those memories, of those battles in that Big East tournament because that's a war. 3 day war.
Yeah, and no, and there's no rest for the weary either. It's every day game, 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 game as you move forward, right?
Yeah, because at that point is like it's really no treatment for any injury you got. Like you ice it. That's pretty much what they're gonna tell you to do everything
Right.
because you ain't gonna have really enough time to rest.
Now
And
they've got these big boots that,
yeah,
the recovery boots and all this other
hmm
stuff. They pack a whole bunch of shit now when they go on the road for to recover from for all that stuff. I want to switch gears a little bit. Talk about the Duke game. You guys had a big upset of Duke in
hmm
your second season at St. John's. Talk about that for a minute. First of all, they were ranked at that point in time, right? Where were they? They were 5.
3 or 5 or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
hmm
So talk about what that was like. That was at the Garden, right?
I was at the guard. Yes.
Okay. So talk about that game because I know you had a big hand in that one.
It was only supposed to be 20,000. I think it was ended up being about 21,000 in the garden that night, right? So we came out and we were kind of flat, but we never let them get like a crazy lead. So as we clawed and stayed in the game, it's just like we started to build confidence, and then the fans started to get behind us, and I started to make shots. Glover started to make shots. Willie started to play lockdown defense, and we was rebounding the ball, and then like, oh, we still here. And then, like it was just like we all believed. And then when we had the opportunity, man, we started to see their morale like go down and the momentum was on our side. So when we got to where we was able to tie it up and play right there with the number 5 team in the country, like we was good. We was actually playing great basketball. Like the
Yeah.
last couple of games, we were actually playing great basketball as a team. So we came in there, and once we caught our rhythm, it was off to the races. And then we got the chance to make a play that last 5 seconds, and then I had the opportunity to make the free throw. It's just like oh wow, this can't be more of a picture perfect moment. Like you probably
Yeah.
rehearsed and thought of as growing up as a kid. So that's exactly where I went with it. I went back to all of those days that I was shooting basketball in my grandmother's house and, practicing that moment. And it would actually, turn into reality. And then it was just like, oh man, you just had something that's going to probably outlive you?
What were some of your biggest moments then? Give me your top three moments that you can remember, college, professional, overseas professional. What are
Um,
the big things that just stick in your mind?
number one is definitely the Duke game. Just like I said, you can't script that any better.
Yeah.
You can't script that any better. Then I would say I would still stay in college because singing night was amazing. That was the actually the last time my dad got to see me play, live. So that was one. That was one. That's definitely number two for me. And then I just the blessing of playing 15 plus years as a professional. What I would say would be my third. Because you got so many memories and experiences with different cultures and different basketball and different lifestyles. So it was just like that was just a kid from Baltimore City. Like probably never experienced that ever again. So have fun and you just embrace the moment.
Yeah, some of my teammates, like Wendell Alexis, had a big moment a year ago where the German club retired his number. And, there were some really, big time things in his life playing overseas for a while. He had a long career also. Now, when you
Hmm.
first started, did you ever think, oh, I'm going to be here 15 years?
No, no. I went over there, and here's the crazy thing. So right before I even went, I had my oldest son was born. So when I didn't make a NBA team right away, I had went home and stayed, made sure that she was okay. And then I stayed with her about 2 months, and then I ended up going overseas to Israel. Was my first place that I went to go play, and then I was like, I'm just going over here to play ball, get my money, and I'm going back home.
Hmm.
And it took me to my third year to be like, man, hold up, slow down, enjoy all of this because
Yeah.
you don't know how long you're gonna do it. So once I did that, then I just started the years just started to go by. I said, damn, I'm in year seven, I'm in year nine, I'm in year 11, and I still felt good.
Yeah.
So I never fathomed like that I would be doing anything else but playing basketball.
Which country was the easiest for you to feel like, I feel good here? I feel at home here.
Israel,
Yeah?
yes,
Now
because
I gotta ask you that a question about that because and not to jump you. I'm sorry I jumped
uh,
you a little bit on
no
that,
problem. Go
No,
but
ahead.
just answer it, man. We're
that to
ready to
me
roll. Go
seems
ahead.
like that place is always under duress. There's always something going on military wise,
Hmm.
yet you felt comfortable there. Is talk about that. Like how did that all work with your comfort level? Do you know what I'm saying? Because that
Yes,
would be one
yes.
of those places I'd be looking, to see where the next missile is coming from or shots or whatever.
So funny story because when I first went over there, I was walking to practice and one of the soldiers was dressed like in regular clothes. But I'm like, oh wow, hold on. So I runs into practice like, man, it's a kid out here. He got a gun. I don't know what's ready to go on. Like, nervous. So he was like, oh, he's in the army. I said, how he's in the army? He don't have army clothes on.
Right.
So the more and more I started to learn about the culture and the people, like the nicer that I realized it was, and it wasn't as chaotic as people thought. The time that I was there. Now, I haven't been there in years, so I don't know like what it's like now, but it was pretty safe. Like I think we had like so many ex NBA players. I'm talking about WNBA and NBA players that was coming there and playing, having careers there.
That's why. Yeah.
I
And
mean, there's
and
a
you
huge
talk you.
support. I mean, they're on TV all the time. It is, if it's not the number one sport, it's close to it in Israel.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Everybody follows it. Everybody's into it. So the crowds are there, right?
The crowds are definitely there. Like and they do pay well. They
Yeah.
they pay they pay well. Like like and then they make it like your home. Like, you know, you can the big teams, if you need something at 3 in the morning, they're gonna make sure you get it.
Yeah, that's great. You said something that a lot of the guys that we've had on that have played extensively in Europe have said, and that is you embraced the culture. Okay. How important was that for them to for those fans over there to pick up on liking you as a person and a player? But how important was that for you, being that you're in someone else's house, so to speak, right?
Mhm.
And you put effort into embracing their culture.
It took some getting used to because like it was just like if I wasn't familiar with it, I was like, nope, I'm not trying that. Nope, I'm not trying that. Nope. And then you keep getting invited to, people's
Hmm.
homes, like, especially the guys on your team that are locals. Come to my house. We have dinner. And you say, okay. And then once you start to open up, they end up really kind of having similarities, like,
Yeah.
like we have similar lifestyles. It's like, sometimes some people, make good decisions and live in the right way. And sometimes people, go this way. We could have very well been on the opposite side. Just you kind of made the decision that we wanted to be basketball players. So that kind of resonated with me. And then just kind of interacting with those guys and seeing how they live and what means the most to them, meaning their family and things like that. It was just a dope vibe.
Did you attempt to even try to learn the language?
Yes, so we would have classes,
Really?
and yeah, we would have classes, and then like when you would meet people, like a lot of the guys on the team would kind of teach us because we would all still hang out. So
Right.
then we would learn, and then we would go to classes. It would be like 45 minutes or hour classes, and if you wanted, but most of the time you probably just meeting people and they trying to teach you it anyway.
Yeah, because we had a couple. We had Corny Thompson and John Pannone and
Oh,
guys
Wendell
like that,
taught you
and
that.
Walter. They Walter Berry. They all went and learned and did their interviews in the language of the country they were playing in. So the people went
Yeah,
crazy for that.
Hmm.
That they had
Ronnie
Hmm.
Stewart,
attempted.
Billy Goodwin,
Right.
they
Right,
stayed.
Billy. Yeah, Billy still is over in France. Right. So I was just wondering because that's got to be a difficult language to learn when you're trying to learn the Hebrew language and the Jewish language and stuff. It's got to be difficult, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely because it's all about pronunciation and things like that. So, but once you hear it a lot, then you kind of become accustomed to it, and then you start picking it up.
Who else? What was some of the American? Who was some of the Americans that played with you over there?
Um, I don't know if you guys remember, he went to NC State. Anthony Grundy played with me. Julius Hodge played with
Yeah.
me, and there was so many people. Look at this. Frank Williams, who was played for the Bulls, he played with me. Uh, what's the other guy name? But there was just so many people, like just so many like pros that was over there.
What a great life experience, right, Marcus? I mean, you
Yeah,
can't put a price on that.
nah, it's an experience that is kind of like breathtaking. Like wow, like you really got to travel the world and do something that you love to do.
One thing you didn't have to worry about was comp and tickets. You didn't have to have family that wanted tickets.
No, so that's a thing too because you still like you make friends and all of them want to come to the game and then you kind of like you can get tickets so you still be having to give out a lot of tickets while you're over there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yep, I'm sure. Well, one thing I want to say too, I know you went back after your career was done and got your degree from St. John's. I take my hat off to you for that. I
Hmm.
thought that was awesome when we did our due diligence because what are we, Sonny?
Professional journalists.
We're professional journalists. We don't know if you know that, Marcus, about us, but we are.
Thought we'd
So
share that with you.
I thought that was great. Did you actually go back to campus and go to school there, or would you go online, or how did that work?
No, I was actually going on campus. So when I finally retired, I reached out to Mary Patton and she was like, "Yo, you're right there, so you might as well spend it." I said, "All right, come on, let's set it up." And then we kind of talked that summer. And then I started the spring of I think it was spring of January, just spring of 2019 or 2018, excuse me.
That's awesome. And then were you able to assist with the guys? Did you go and with the players on that team at that time? Were you able to
No, no,
work
because
with those guys at all?
I was coaching high school basketball back in Baltimore. So I would
Okay.
come up. I would come up. I was an assistant coach at Mount Carmel. So I would come up. I would have class on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then I would go back and we have a game on Wednesday, and then I would have class on Friday, and that's kind of how I got it done.
So you
Did you
really
did
you
you
really went to work, man. I mean, that's
Yeah,
no joke.
yeah,
Baltimore to New York City is not an easy
yeah,
drive,
yeah, yeah.
Lest
did you
anybody think differently that you think the traffic's bad here in New York, man. Get down there by 495 and forget it. The loops and stuff down there,
Oh
it's
man,
crazy.
rush hour time, you can forget about it.
It's yeah, it's nuts. I mean, I give you a lot of credit for doing that. I think that's awesome. Is that something that you had a discussion with, your parents at some point to say, hey, I'm going to go back and get my degree? Or did somebody come to you of importance in your life to say, hey, you should go back and get your degree? How did that decision come about?
Um, Honestly, kind of like, just talking with friends who kind of had a degree and they would ask me, did I have mine? And then I was still in touch with the people at St. John's and they was letting me know how close I was. So if I did have the time, would you, take a class or two? And once I realized that I had the free time once I retired, I was like, man, it's a no-brainer because I want
Yeah.
to get into coaching anyway. And then I spoke with Chris. He's like, man, look, you can't do nothing if you don't got no degree. And then he was like, all right, go back to school, get your degree, and then if we got something for you, then we'll bring you on.
Do you
so
keep up with the current state of affairs over there at St. John's? Do you go back for any of the events or anything? Or are you in touch with the
Yeah,
program?
yes, yes. I go back often. I haven't been to a game yet this year, but I'm gonna make it to one this up. I mean, especially the new year. I'm actually hosting an event for the school here. They got a St. John's DMV, so I'll be hosting an event down here. Actually New Year's Eve. So they play
Cool.
we play Georgetown.
Yeah, well, that's always a big rivalry,
great.
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
So I got to ask you, you got a hat and you got a hoodie with the letters BL on there. Tell us about that.
So it's my brand becoming legendary. Everything that I do was my mentor program, become a legendary mentor program. So, like people like, yo, why you never wear, your brand? So I just felt like realized like, all right, you know what? I like to wear hoodies and I like to wear sweatsuits. So I'll just put becoming legendary on there. So now people are asking me to start selling it. So I'm in the process of making some merchandise.
there you go. There you go. That's great stuff. So when, like I said to you, you were down in St. John's down in campus. What do you think of the team today? Have you gotten to see them play on TV at all, or what? And how do you think Coach P is doing with those guys?
Very talented team. I just think they're still trying to find any identity. And coaches, I think he's getting the most out of them. I just think we just got to start once they. I don't think we trust each other yet enough yet. But this is a very talented team. If we start clicking at the right time, I think we'll have a deep run in the NCAA playoff.
It's funny because we've talked to a lot of coaches and stuff, and with the way things are with the portal, more so than the NIL, but
Hmm.
with the portal, with so much movement, with the players coming and going, it's hard to build any kind of continuity.
Yes.
And St. John's arguably had and probably still does have on paper the best roster in all of college basketball. You can argue that all day long.
Hmm.
Michigan's also pretty good. There's a few of them. But, it just seems like like you said, they're not in sync. They're a little out of step. You got a guy like Bryce Hopkins and Zuby, against that Alabama team. They scored in the first half. In the second half, the guards took over the game and they didn't see the ball much. It's kind of like you see glimpses of greatness from these
Hmm.
guys, and then all of a sudden you go, what the heck happened? And do you think that's all Rick still, molding the clay, so to speak?
Yeah, because like you said, we lost very integral parts last year,
Yeah.
and you had to replace two big pieces,
Yep.
and you got guys who all been coming from different programs. Who was the guy? Now they got to sacrifice. That's a tough thing for kids who's coming in used to being the man. So it's kind of tough for them to kind of
Yeah.
start to gel and find chemistry till they really buy into what Rick is saying. Once they buy into what Rick is saying, I think they'll all be great because everybody knows that they can play. You know? So once
Yeah.
they buy
Oh,
into
yeah.
it, say they're going to be great.
You can't. They go about, I would say, probably 8, 9 deep at least, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
at
maybe
least.
10. I mean, they got guys that can shoot. They play different styles. I like the way they play. I mean, Rick's always been in your face, kind of defensive minded and
Hmm.
getting after it and stuff. But I think they'll get it. It's just a matter of time. And it's interesting how some teams get that gel earlier. Like you look at a UConn, who also is a formidable team this year,
Hmm.
and they seem to have it a little more, but they also had a couple other guys that stayed with the program. I mean,
Yep.
that's the key to the whole thing, I think. If you can get a couple of guys to stay. Now, Zuby stayed, obviously, but you
Hmm.
lost a couple of big pieces, as you said, but it's interesting to me to see how that works because now, as you think back to when Sonny and I played or when you played in the Big East, there was always the older guys showing the younger guys how to do it, right?
Yep.
Now
Yep.
there is no older guys. They're all the same. So it fascinates me to see how that works because certain coaches can do it and certain ones can't. Like the old school screamer and yeller type, and Sonny and I both played for two of those, in Rolly Massimino and Jim Boeheim, right?
Hmm.
I don't know if those guys could coach in this environment. It's you tick somebody off, all of a sudden he's in the portal, he's going someplace else. It's kind of too easy, right?
Yeah, so you see, all of those guys, Coach Mike Krzyzewski, Coach Jim Boeheim. Once this portal and stuff opened up, they got
They're
out of
gone.
there.
Yeah, Jay
They
Wright,
like they
Tony
right up,
Bennett. There's a whole
yeah.
bunch of them. Yeah,
Because
Very true.
like I do believe it's really hindering the game though, because you got so many kids who have untapped potential who never reach that potential because it's hard to develop them, like you said, because the minute they don't like something that you say, they in the transfer portal. If I'm trying to
yeah,
give you some constructive criticism, oh, I'm leaving, and it makes it tough to build programs now because you can't even bank on having kids for like more than a season. You don't even know if you're gonna have your kid through the end of the season now.
it's wild because I use Jalen Brunson as an example all the time. When Jalen came in to Villanova, he had accolades like ridiculous resume
Hmm.
from a high school player. Comes in and he's sitting behind Ryan Archie-Diacono.
Mm.
Okay. And not for long. I mean, he got it. Jay found him some game time, obviously, and then he became Jalen Brunson his
Hmm.
second 2 seasons there. But that's a guy you got to wonder if it was the same circumstances now. Is that a type of guy that would say, "All right, I'm not doing this. Who am I? Who am I? I'm not sitting behind this guy."
Hmm.
And he turned out. It comes out. I think the thing that comes out of that, Marcus, is a kid has got to be coachable and be willing to be coached. And that
Yeah.
may mean you have to wait your turn. So you look at those 16, 18 Villanova teams. They had a lot of guys that redshirted that were not injured. Mikhail Bridges, Dante DiVincenzo,
Hmm.
people like that redshirted to get a year experience where he knows Jay knew I get you more game time next year. You're not getting as much time as you should be getting now because I have so and so here. You know, it's hard to sell a kid on that now because it's too easy to jump in and get to another place.
Yeah, and you hear Calipari, you hear
Yeah.
Coach Izzo, like these guys are getting fed up because, like you said, it's gonna be almost impossible to coach a
Yeah,
kid. All you gotta do is don't like what you say or can't take constructive criticism, and then it's over. So when we talk about this, and you hope guys take to what Jalen Brunson done, being coachable, take those lessons and understand like what it took for him to get to where he's at now. It's not because he went on his own; he was willing to be coached. He was
yeah,
willing to listen. So hopefully those guys take that message from watching or anything he got going on.
yeah. Well, we're getting up against it. So tell us, what are you doing now? What are you doing these days? Are you involved with your community? What are you doing for work? Tell us what Marcus Hatton is up to these days.
So we talked about it kind of briefly when we mentioned about what's the BL.
Yeah,
Because BL is becoming a legendary mentor program. that we help kids try to um, who has dealt with trauma, any type of mental health, any type of substance abuse, any type of health issues that they have to deal with. We try to help them and assist them in any kind of way if they need therapy, if they need any type of tutoring for school or what it is, what type of counseling they need. So I am in the community. We had a flag football event for Thanksgiving. Right now, we got to become a legendary unlimited basketball tournament, and I'm just trying to do my part in the community so every kid can have hope, have an opportunity to reach whatever it is they decide to be.
That's awesome. I'm so happy to hear you say that. As a father of a daughter who's a psychologist, I know how tough it is, and mental health is. I wish we had people like that back when we were playing. When Sonny
Yeah.
and yeah, I wish
Oh
I
yeah.
really do. I'm not even kidding around. Because I look talking to her and now listening to you, it's an extremely important part of not only basketball but life, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Yep.
what a great way to end this, man. I appreciate you very much for coming on. Thank you so much for your time and joining us and hanging with us for an hour tonight. You know,
Yeah,
thanks
thanks,
again
man.
for
Appreciate
Yeah.
I
it.
Thank
guess
you guys for having me. I appreciate it, man. I really look forward to seeing you guys. I watch you guys on Twitter, so I'll be following you guys.
okay. Thanks, man. Hey, hang
Thank
out for
you.
a second. Let me wrap this up and then we'll say goodbye properly, you know.
Okay.
You've been listening to and watching the Big East Rewind with Chuck Everson and Sonny Sparrow. The Big East Rewind is produced and directed by Nick Chico Chorus, Daryl Gurney, and James Hapt. Check us out on the SiriusXM app, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks, folks.